Day two of the 47th Paris Air Show, the industry's biggest event of the year. Already the battle between plane makers Boeing and Airbus is heating up. Rish is there. Rish.
Yeah, yesterday, Mark, $42 billion worth of orders, commitments for Airbus, just about $4 billion there coming for Boeing as well. Got Bill Alderman here. He's from Bill Alderman and Company as well. Bill, there's Airbus now. It's halfway to its goal of getting 200 of these A350s this year. Are there troubles behind the plane maker now?
Rich, good morning. Good to see you again. Are the troubles behind Airbus? I wish I could say they are. I'm sure Airbus wishes they could say they were. But Louis Gauet yesterday said in a press conference that Airbus is now in the worst state it has ever been. I think when your leadership, when your chairman, when your CEO says you're in the worst state you've ever been, that doesn't mean you started the turnaround. That means you're still in the turnaround. Can it get worse? I don't know how it gets worse. But does it get better tomorrow? No, Rish, I don't think it gets better tomorrow. I think this is months, years before we see Airbus back to the grandeur that it once stood upon.
Okay, so, we've got the Power 8 program in place, a lot of job cuts, about 10,000 of them taking place, so restructuring in terms of the way that the supplier base is constructed as well. Is it enough?
Is it enough? Well, 10,000 job cuts is what management thinks they need, but because this is a geopolitical company, although it is a publicly traded enterprise, there's still many governments involved, as we all know, the French, the German, the Spanish. And so even those job cuts, which in a more free market environment would go through with union resistance, but not government resistance, we're now dealing with government resistance. We have a change of control of government here in France. All that needs to be worked into this fabric, woven into this fabric of decision-making. And so 10,000 job cuts may be enough, but they may not get them. And the infrastructure that they have to go through and the decision-making bureaucracy to make those kinds of critical decisions, it's very difficult. And so we look to Louis Gauet and we say, good luck. We wish him well, but he's got a very hard job in front of him, not just to decide how many jobs to cut and where, but getting the approvals to cut those jobs.
Okay, Boeing went through a big restructuring in its cost base a few years ago, back to a decade ago, when they cut the number of component suppliers they had.
Yes.
Instituted competition. Is this now the way forward for Airbus too?
It is, and ironically, if we go back, it's almost deja vu all over again, Rich. We look at where Boeing was back in the late 90s. The market was in good shape. The market's in good shape today. Boeing had production problems. It was delivering late aircraft, had supply chain backlog. It decided it had to cut its supplier base from 3,000 to 1,500 down in the plant down in Seattle, in the narrow body line, the 7375 line. It was devastating to those suppliers that were feeding those supply chains. Boeing offered larger contracts, longer-term contracts, but said to suppliers, we need year after year price cuts in order for us to remain competitive and earn profitability for our stakeholders. Well, if we look where we are today, we've got a good market, production problems, and dramatic cash flow earning problems for Airbus. Now, on top of that, unfortunately, they have design issues and production issues, not just of supplier delivery issues, but of actual technological issues with the A380 wiring, for example. So this is more difficult than I think Boeing faced. I think Airbus will survive. We can talk about why it has to survive, but they've got a lot of work ahead of them, and the supplier base to Airbus will see some difficult times ahead.
What sort of, cuts, consolidation do we see there? Do we see actually them taking over some of these to consolidate the supplier base?
No, I think the pressure will be this. The pressure will be that Airbus, which for years has been what I would call a European culture, in a positive way. They viewed stakeholders, not stockholders. In America, especially in the capital markets in the States, it's all about the buck and the stockholder. The employees and the government and the environment sometimes get less than they should. Europe has been more environmentally friendly, more stakeholder friendly, more employee friendly. But Airbus must survive. And in an environment where cash is missing, where they need state funding, where they can't potentially make payroll, this is no longer in a European environment of stakeholders. They must turn profitability. They must turn cash flow positive. They're going to lean on their suppliers like Airbus has never leaned before, not because they want to, because they must for their own survival. They're going to say to suppliers, I wish I could keep prices where they are. I wish I could help you. But if I don't lower my prices with you by X, I'll be out of business. And it's going to be very difficult for all involved.
Does it make it unattractive for other people to consolidate that supplier base then with these radical cuts and this pressure coming from Airbus? To very quickly, Bill.
The quick quick answer is no. A great supplier, a Meggitt, a Goodrich, you name them, there's tons of them, can bring in smaller suppliers, show them the way, teach them how to be lean, and help them survive. But they've got to be the cream of the crop, the top of the class, or it won't work.
Okay, well, what about the stock itself now? I mean, would it be representing a buying opportunity given what's been happening? And perhaps, well, as you say, it can't get much worse than this.
It can't get much worse. Airbus closed in the 20s. Airbus had been in the high 30s. Airbus, though, in 2003 had been in the 7s. And so what I would say to the investor right now is pick the names right, pick the quality suppliers, especially in the second tier where there's a lot of activity, but watch the cycle. The cycle in this market is a big wave, and you want to be in the right place when that wave hits.
Thank you, Bill. Bill Alderman there. He's from Alderman and Company. We've been talking about the airline industry, Airbus versus Boeing. Mark